PTC Media, bringing quality scouting podcasts to packs, troops, and crews. Find us on the web at ptcmedia.net.
My brother Scouts, I want to remind you in a very few words of what your duty is as Scouts. Apart from merely living in camp, cooking your own grub, and playing Scout games.
Hey everybody, welcome to Scout Nation. I'm Scoutmaster Sean.
And I'm Scoutmaster Brian.
And there's Scoutmaster Brian. Sorry for stepping on him. Welcome to Show 4. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about PLCs and some other stuff, but we're first going to kick things off a little bit of troop news. I've got some good stuff, and I imagine Brian has some good stuff. But, Brian, I'm going to be ever so gracious and let you go first.
Oh, thank you, sir. Well, I'll tell you what, March was a heck of a month, and April just kept on rolling. We had our first camp out with our new scouts at the end of March, and we had 134 people come on the camp out. 41 of them were adults. We always invite the new parents to come on that first camp out and train them. And the rest was all, so that's 90, I'm not good at math, so that's 90-something scouts, close. And man, oh man, what a huge, huge success. It was a great camp out. It was cold. For the first time in 17 years, it did not rain during our March camp out, so that was a huge success on that end. Every scout that crossed over came on the camp out except for one, and he had a specific reason why he didn't, and we've already caught him up. But they just had a blast. I had a great time. We shot rockets. It was just phenomenal. And the fact that we had that many scouts and that many adults, that's pushing summer camp numbers for us. And it's just continuing because we're camping in April, and our April camp out has, I think, 101 people going. So looking forward to seeing this continue. We haven't had this many people in a very long time, and it's good to see that a big troop can gather those numbers on a regular basis. So I'm real happy with the camp out and the month as it progressed. I'm real proud of my SPL and the PLC. They put on a heck of a camp out and a heck of a campfire, and we kept all of our guys. We didn't lose anybody yet, so that's always a good thing with the first years. We did, however, have one incident which I'd like to talk about real quick, and we had a fire.
A fire? Well, everybody has a fire.
Well, we had a campfire, which was absolutely phenomenal. However, two of our scouts who were setting up the campfire while we were shooting rockets got cold and decided to light a fire while they were building the campfire in the campfire ring. So we're on the other side of camp, and here comes an ASM, and he goes, "Hey, Brian, I need you. The ranger needs to see you." I'm like, "Uh-oh, okay." Seems somebody set fire to a tree. And I laughed. I said, "All right, well, we're shooting our rockets, and I'll be there in a moment." And he goes, "No, seriously, somebody set fire to a tree." So I left the grand finale, which I heard was spectacular at the rocket launching site, and I walked down to the campfire ring, and there's this tree that was dead and hollow. And they started a fire in the hollow of the tree, at the base of the tree, and the flames were coming out about 15, 20 feet in the air out of knots and holes and
wow.
Yeah. So they were just sitting there with their hands, their heads in their hands, and I came walking down the hill, and the rangers there fighting the fire, and they both looked up, and they looked at me, and they put their heads back down, and I said, you know what? I really don't know what to say to you. What were you? And I said, wait a minute. What part of your brain were you using? I don't think you were using any part of your brain. So why don't you guys go up to the campfire ring and just sit there for a while? And the ranger came by, and the ranger's an awesome guy, older gentleman named Hoppy, and he came down, and we took the tree down. It was about a 30-foot tree. We took it down. We had to section it. We hit it with a fire extinguisher, and turned around. He goes, "We're those boys that like to set fires." And I said, "They're right up there." And he called them on down. He goes, "You like to set them? Let's see you put them out." And he sectioned that tree up, all 30 feet of it. And he says, "Bring it on down to the creek, soak it, bring it on up and show it to me to make sure this tree is out." So that was part one. Then part two, they came up and...
Now, was this a council camp?
No, this is a youth camp.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a camp that used to be a council camp, but was sold off years and years and years ago, and was bought by the youth of the county. And the ranger sat him down, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, "Hoppy, it's your camp." I said, "If the troop is no longer welcome here because of the damage, we'll pack up and be out of here in 2 hours. If these two gentlemen need to get off your property, I'll have their parents here in 1 hour." I go, "It's up to you." I go, "It's your camp. You're the ranger." And he goes, "No, it's not." He goes, "It's not my camp." And he looked at the two boys, and he goes, "It's your camp." And he talked to them, and it was absolutely, absolutely inspiring. He talked to them, no yelling, no screaming. The punishment was they have to give a fire safety presentation to the troop. No going home. No, he didn't look at me and say, they shouldn't go on campouts. They shouldn't do this. They need to be banned from the troop for X amount of weeks or months. He said, "You know what? You know what you did. You know what you did was wrong." And they talked about it for a while. And then he said, "What I'd like you to do is give a fire safety demonstration to your troop." And he looked at me and he goes, "Where's your next camp out?" And I said, "My next camp out's in April, and it's at this date at this camp." And he goes, "All right." He looked at them and he goes, "You guys are going on that camp out. Mr. Scoutmaster, I think you have your fire guard for the evening. And they will properly prepare a campfire for your troop, and they will stand guard until the last ember is out before they go to bed." And I said, "Oh, I'm good with that." What a
Wow.
It could have been a major disaster. It could have been, it could have been bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it because it could have been bad. But the way that that ranger worked with those boys, I was inspired. And they were waiting for the other. Once he left, they were waiting for the other shoe to drop from me. And I looked at him and I said, "You know what? You heard the ranger. That's what you're doing." I go, "It'd be silly to ban you from a camp out or ban you from a scout event, because being in scouting teaches you how to be a good person. And I don't think you were smart people today. So why would I ban you from something that's going to help you improve that?" So as far as I'm concerned, we're done. If you follow the Rangers' instructions, we're good to go. So they got a presentation coming up in a couple of weeks. I told them it needs to be good. They've got like a 15, 20-minute presentation, PowerPoint, examples, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be a good demonstration from them. So that was pretty much my month. I did tons of other things, but those were the two highlights. And you always got to do your thorns and roses, and that was definitely a thorn, that fire in that tree that ended up being a rose. So in the long run, it teaches us why we're here, why we volunteer for scouting, and that it definitely takes a cool mind and a level head to be able to deal with everything that's going to be thrown at you by these guys. So how about you? How was you? Now, we talked about Booyah last month. And I saw a couple of pictures on Twitter. So how'd that go?
Well, for those not familiar with Booyah, if you saw the pictures, basically in a nutshell, it's a harvest soup that farmers used to make in my neck of the woods back in the 1800s in the fall, where the chickens who were done laying eggs were slaughtered and cooked, and after you got done with the butchering, you took the scraps from the pigs and the cows and you threw it in a big, huge kettles along with the harvest vegetables, which were pretty much everything: corn, cabbage, peas, carrots, onions, potatoes, rutabagas, radishes, everything. And, you know, it's a lot like a big stone soup. And everybody has their own recipe. Well, being that we're chartered with the Moose Lodge, they have a pretty good recipe, and they have the facilities to be able to help us with that. So we planned this Booyah. Booyah is the name of the soup, but it's also kind of the name of the event. It means feast. So we put the event on, and we made about 110 gallons. And we had about, I'd say 20 gallons left over. Actually, about that. Long and short of it, very lucrative fundraiser. We profited about $1,000.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. To make the 110 gallons of Booyah cost right around $425 with the chicken and the beef bones, and it's a pretty interesting recipe, but it went over very, very well. There's a lot of time that it takes to make this. You're cooking over an open fire for about 14 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty intense. There's a lot of prep work, but if you do the prep work, the devil's in the details. And we had an all hands on deck that night at the troop meeting. The boys did the troop meeting while the parents were all there dicing vegetables. With the Moose Lodge, we serve food there, and I say we because I am also a member, but we serve food there, and so we have kitchen grade industrial type kitchen equipment, and we have these big dicers. So
oh, wow, that helps.
You just clean up cut the ends off on the carrots and throw the carrot in there, and it's diced. And you're dicing 5-gallon buckets of onions, 5-gallon buckets of celery, 5-gallon buckets of cabbage, and just the mass quantities that you're looking at putting in. So all in all, we did about $1,000, and this was with only about 3 weeks notice. So we didn't have a chance to get out in the Moose Lodge newsletter or advertise at the churches. The big thing with the Booyah in our area is people, if they see a sign, they look for it. You can get $3 for a bowl. 2 cups of soup will fetch $3. And these people will walk up with their ice cream buckets, and they'll say, "Give me 5 bowls." And you scoop it in their ice cream bucket. They'll flip out their $15, and they'll go home and they'll pull out a loaf of bread, and that's their meal. And this will be Sunday after church. And it's a huge ritualistic thing in my neck of the woods. So we have another one planned for this fall, and we're actually going to do 3 kettles, 3 50-gallon kettles, and we're going to advertise it more. We're also going to do it on a Sunday of an away Packer game that is late. So we'll get there. We'll start selling it at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and we'll advertise at the churches, and people will actually set up a drive-through, and we'll have gallon containers ready to go, and we'll sell them ready to go to people. They'll pull up, pay, drop it in their trunk, and out the door they go. And we should do pretty well with that. So that's going to help fund us for some of our campouts. We haven't had any campouts since in March or April due to just kind of PLC issues. And we have 3 campouts that we're looking at coming up in between May and June. Actually, we have a district camporee, and one of the council camps is offering what they call a Campmaster weekend, where the campmasters are a group of guys that get together and they act as commissioners to help give the ranger a break on the weekends, because they're, the rangers are there Monday through Friday, 24/7, 24/5, and an occasional weekend like to get them off. So the camp masters are actually going to open up one of the council camps and open up the gun range and the bull range and everything, so that troops can come in and use the facilities as a normal campground. But for a troop like mine, who hasn't been to this camp before, it's going to be a good opportunity for us to see what we got going and what we can do there. So we got that, and then our last camp is going to be at what we call Camp Dunbar, and Dunbar is the town where our campgrounds are. We have 5 acres that has been, I don't want to say donated because it hasn't been donated yet, but we have free reign to do whatever we want on it, and so we call it Camp Dunbar. And we're going to do that probably in June, the weekend after Father's Day weekend. And we're working on the pioneering theme right now with knots and lashings and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. We've got, we don't have summer camp numbers like you do. We've got seven boys signed up and 3 leaders. But one of the nice things with our stuff is that they're going to offer the IOLS training at summer camp.
At summer camp, yeah.
Yeah, and this is a first for our council. I think you and I chatted about this, but it's a first for our council, and it's going to be a really, I think it's going to help us out a lot. So
that's a good opportunity. It's a really good opportunity. Our council does the same, where an adult leader can attend summer camp and for an entire week and leave fully trained. And you can walk in a parent and walk out a scout leader.
Well, especially with the new initiative, and I don't know, the Bailey's Council, where we're from, we take the initiative on a lot of things. That it was called Cub Tracks.
Okay.
That program that they're running now with the monthly, the meetings all planned out for you, and that was originally brought in
through you guys.
Yeah, through our council. Well, we're also in the 100% trained by January 31st of next year.
Right.
So this is going to help us get there. And the nice thing is my committee chair is taking all this stuff too. So, like I said, there's a lot of things that are happening and changing right now with the dynamics of our troop. My assistant Scoutmasters, 2 of them I have now, are both getting trained. My committee chair is getting trained. My committee chair is also starting to put together a more firm committee, and actually called me today to say, hey, what's the PLC doing, these upcoming months, because we need to know what kind of fundraisers we need to put together for you guys so that we can start paying for this stuff if they're going camping. So what are they doing? And that's got us talking about the PLC a little bit this afternoon, and I think that's going to kind of lead us into our next topic here.
That's true. Well, it sounds like there's a lot going on up in Cheesehead country, and in the Hoosier State, we're doing some stuff. So why don't you guys let us know? Tag your tweets or your Facebook or your post with Scout Nation, and let us know what your troops are doing, because we really like to hear what you guys are up to. And let's not say steal, let's say borrow, and borrow each other's ideas and spread it all across the Scout Nation. But so yeah, we're coming into tonight's topic, and it was suggested on the PTC forums by a Ken Morgan, and he had a question about PLC size and the patrol method. So first, before we get into Ken's question there, let's talk, what is the patrol method? And I think Sean and I will just do a little back and forth. The patrol method, I think, is from our perspective, from my perspective, I think both our perspectives, is scouting. It's the basic unit of scouting, and it's where most of the scouting should be done, I think. And it doesn't matter if you're 8 or 80 or 800. The patrol method is where it's at. It's that basic unit in scouting. It's the gang, right? It's Baden Powell's gang. That's that group of guys that he wanted in there, when he first started thinking about the scouting program. And it's just a bunch of guys from the neighborhood getting together. And we don't have that anymore. I remember doing it as a kid, and Sean, I'm sure you remember it as a kid, getting together with all the people in the neighborhood and just hanging out on the corner or on the stoop or riding bikes or doing whatever. They don't do that anymore. Kids are too busy. Neighborhoods don't have sidewalks. And you hardly know the guy who lives next door to you, let alone all 15 to 20 kids in your class within a 3 or 4 block radius of your house. So I guess he foresaw something way back when 100 years ago, because that's what we're doing now in scouting.
Are you saying BP was a bit of a clairvoyant?
I might be saying that. I might be saying that. He gets guys together.
Well, I think, he probably learned a lot of that from his time in the service. His time in the service, he saw what his troops could do as patrol units, as military patrols, that they worked together, they had to work together. And, there was a series of fortunate events that happened that BP saw that, and then found out that all these boys were buying his scouting book, which was actually made for adults.
Right.
And then he fine-tuned it and went with the patrol method. Now, I don't want to give a history lesson. I don't want to talk about the things we already know. And, if your troop is not boy-led, then you don't have a troop at all. Well, it's true. But we all have to do some type of hybrid with running things. You have 135 scouts. I have 11 scouts, and we both need to run. Your troop has been established for years. Mine has only been around for a couple of years, and I'm still tinkering with things in the patrol here so that it's, as Jerry has told me, and you have too, guided discovery, to teach the boys a bit more. So the patrol method, all I can really say is ditto to what Brian said, because if you don't have a patrol, you don't really have a troop at all. You've got another den.
Right. And that's what you're looking at in a patrol method, what you should be as a scouter looking at, and why you should practice the patrol method is because it gives the scouts what we like to call the buy-in, right? A sense of ownership. It's their patrol. It's not my patrol. It's not the older guys' patrol. It's not it's not some random grouping of people. It's theirs, and it's theirs to set up as they like. Their patrol names, the patrol makeup, who's in the patrol, who's out of the patrol. That's all up to them. The patrol leadership, that's all up to them. I mean, they come up to me and they want a name. If I could get a patch for it, done. I don't have lists of, oh well, you can this but can't use that. We talked about this at an earlier podcast about patrol makeup. Our patrol makeup is by grade, and that's the way they wanted it. That's the way the scouts picked it.
They did that with mine too. I thought that they may want to form one kind of bigger patrol or something. No, they were pretty adamant about, right away, we want our own. So.
And that's good. And, and with patrol mergers, it's the same thing with the makeup. Quick story is that my son, when he was hitting his third year, his patrol was having some issues. And there were 3 patrols in his age group. His age group had enough scouts that there were 3 patrols. And he came to me, and he had better friends in the other patrol, one of the other patrols. Let's say patrol A, B, and C. Well, he was in B, and he wanted to go into patrol A. And I said, he came to me and says, well, that's what I want to do. And I said, that's great. I go, but, I can't do anything about it. I said, what you need to do is you need to talk with the patrol leader. Talk with that patrol leader, bring it up with that patrol, and say, hey, I want to join you guys. Each patrol has a patrol advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to that patrol advisor as well with the patrol leader and the patrol, and then talk to your own patrol leader and your patrol advisor and say, this is what I'd like to do. And let everybody know. And if they say it's fine, then do it. You know, it's your patrol. It's their patrol. If they want you in it, they'll let you in. So he went through all that, and they said fine. And he was getting ready to cross over to the new patrol, and it was on time. And this is a story that has a terrible ending, because the Scoutmaster at the time decided to rearrange the patrols himself, and it caused it really caused big it caused a big brouhaha. It caused some tears on that night because he didn't consult anybody. He decided that he was. I mean, and it really irritated a lot of parents, and it really irritated a lot of scouts. He decided, well, Patrol A was doing really good, Patrol B was so-so, and Patrol C was not doing well at all. So he decided to, toss everybody's buffs in a bag and just pull out some names and say, here's this patrol, here's that patrol, here's that patrol. And it did not go over very well. And the end result was we lost a bunch of scouts. We demotivated a bunch of scouts. And I mean, I had an adult come up to me because his son was in tears, and his son saw the patrol, the people that he was going to be with in the patrol, and quit. He walked out the door.
Really?
And the dad came up to me, and I was like, I'm sorry, what can I do? I'm new here, I can't do anything, but let me go talk to your son. And I talked to his son, and I said, this is my suggestion. And he went and he talked to a couple people, and he got into a patrol that wasn't the patrol that he wanted and that he was in for a couple of years, but it was better than the alternative, which he thought was so terrible that he didn't want to be there anymore. That's it was a bad situation, and most of those guys are aging out right now. It's my son's group, so they're aging out right now, and I think it hurt the troop. It really did. It demotivated a bunch of guys, and we had for the past few years. The past 2 years, we've had an older patrol that just, meh. They didn't step up the way I think, the way I asked them to, the way we begged them to, the way we thought they could. We told them, I said, man, you guys could be great leaders, but I think that was the beginning of the end. And it's a perfect illustration on the patrol method, because Mr. Scoutmaster, Mr. Assistant Scoutmaster, Mr. Committee Chair, or any well-meaning adult, keep your nose out. It's not your patrol. It's their patrol. So let them make the decisions. Let them make the choices. I mean, if it becomes clear, when you need to step in. And if you don't have to step in, then don't. Let them run it. They do marvelous things in those patrols, and it really introduces them to leadership as a whole, because if you have a good patrol and they have a flag that they're proud of, and they hang ribbons and banners and trinkets off of it, and they keep up their attendance at camp out so that they're not merging with if you get only 3 guys from this patrol and 5 guys from that patrol come, usually we'll merge those 2 patrols for the camp out so that they have a group of 8, which is your usually your most effective patrol size, like 8 to 10 or 8 to 12. And they keep that attendance up because they like being with each other, and everybody has a role. And that's what I love about the patrol method, is that everyone has a role. You might not be the sharpest with the ropes, and you might not know your knots, but you're a great cook, or you are a good leader, and you look in that patrol and you can see people playing to their strengths, and it makes those scouts feel good, because they know that when they go camping, they are going to be grub master because everybody likes their cooking. You know, everybody's done with the requirements, and we'll take care of that. We'll deal with that. But everybody loves, you know, little Johnny's cooking. He cooks the best breakfast, and whenever he goes on a camp out, they want him to cook, and he loves it. He relishes it. He's never been patrol leader. He has no intention of being a big leader or on the PLC, but he's contributing to his patrol. And he's contributing to the troop, therefore.
Well, as long as everybody's contributing, it's, you know, I've seen, and I use this philosophy myself, it doesn't matter if the food is burnt. The boys cooked it. It doesn't matter if the flag ceremony isn't crisp and perfect. The boys did it. Now, if they're taking, and you talked about the buy-in, they're taking responsibility. They're taking the ownership. It's theirs. Who's at fault when, you know, Billy is in charge of setting up the dining fly, but the poor boy doesn't know how to tie a knot? Who does that ultimately fall on? That falls on his patrol and his patrol leaders for not making sure that they're giving him something that he may be stronger at. Whereas Billy, who's not strong at knots, is in charge of guying out the dining fly, but Jimmy's over here, who's sharp as a tack on knots and ropes and everything else, is building fires, which is not his forte. Give and take, but it's on the patrols to decide to find each of their strengths and weaknesses. Can an adult step in? Yes, by all means. We're not saying don't ever step into a patrol because it's just not your place. There's always going to be a place. That's why we have adult leadership. It's boy-led, adult-supervised. Now,
Right.
If the boys decide that they're going to be the flaming chunky monkeys, and that's what they want for a name, and their patrol yell is, you know, they scream and they jump up and down like baboons for 10 seconds, that's great. If they're, for example, they all attend the same middle school, and they start talking, and pretty soon an 8th grader says, hey guys, I'd really like to join your 7th grade patrol. I mean, like we were talking, it usually falls by grades, and that's the way they will pick. But if they would like to do that, well, then let them decide, you know, I want to go over to this patrol. Or 2 guys want to leave a patrol to go to another patrol. Why is that? Let them come to the conclusion, because eventually, if there's enough guys that want to leave a patrol, the patrol leader is probably going to look and say, why are all these guys leaving?
Exactly.
What's going on? And that's part of the guide discovery and the learning about leadership that they're going to learn from that. You know, I hate to say it in this term, but that patrol leader might realize, I suck at this. I need help. Who can I turn to? Boom. Now he's talking to the troop guide. Now he's talking to the assistant senior patrol leader. Now he's talking to the senior patrol leader to get the information that he needs. And if ultimately those steps on the ladder cannot get him that information, then it's fine to come to an adult. Or if an adult can see that those youth leaders cannot give that boy the information or the education or the leadership skills that he needs, then they can step in. It's painful. We all have sons, obviously. We all had to learn to watch them walk. We had to watch them fall. We didn't want them to fall, and we hated it. And it's like, you know, he fell, he's wearing a diaper, and he's going to get right back up. And we did that when they were babies, but why are we so afraid to do that now?
Right.
And I think let them have their area. For example, and I'll do this because I thought about it, and what I do at the lodge, and I've set the boys, the first couple of weeks, I started setting groups of tables around the lodge and seeing to where they would kind of congregate to say, this is our area, this is our area, this is our area, and let them work alone and separately. That's what I was hoping would happen. Well, it didn't happen. Everybody just came to one table, and I said, all right, duct tape patrol, go over there, lightning patrol, go over there. Why? Go over there and you'll figure out when you get there. And they got over there, and there was one piece of paper on the table that said, please do not move. That's all it said. And they sat down and they looked at each other like deer in the headlights, but you know what? They opened up their books and they started talking about knots and lashings. They started talking about different things. So there was some of that guide discovery. So the patrol method, whether it's for a troop that has 15 patrols or a troop that has 2 patrols, it works. Let it work. Everybody has that self-drawn line where they say, if it gets to this point, I'm going to have to step in. Push that line further back. Let it go further, because that's the only way it's going to really work for you. So, like I said, we can give you all the history on the patrol method and all those things, but if the boys are doing it, great. If they're following, what your book says, what your Scoutmaster handbook says, just trust them.
Yeah.
So
train them and trust them.
Train them and trust them. Yeah, you have to. You can't understand what it's like to win if you never fail.
Right.
That's how I feel. If you won the Super Bowl every year, what would it be like? Oh, we lost.
Right.
Well, let's try winning next year. You have to lose. So hopefully that helps with, what I think the patrol method is and what it can do for, every troop out there.
I think it could do. I mean, it's the basic unit in scouting, and just to piggyback on you, I think it is so important that patrol area. I really think that's so important, whether it's at a troop meeting or a camp out. Get them away from each other. You know what? You're gonna have those guys that just love to see. I mean, if you're a fan of loving those tents, nice green teak tents just lined up straight in a row, and you come to my troop and you got 100 scouts out there. There's 50 tents lined up straight in a row. You're not doing it right. I'd love to see 100 tents lined up straight in a row. I've been to jamborees where you see that, but you know what? It's the patrol method. What I'd rather see is 50 tents scattered out in groups of 2s and 3s.
Yep. Because
that's what the patrol is. And we've been doing that lately. We've been doing that for the past 2 years. We've really, really been pushing it. Make a semicircle, make a 20-foot ring, and put a fire ring in the middle of your tent area. Bring a picnic table over there. Bring your cooking gear over there. You know what? It is a hassle for the adults to run from place to place to place to make sure everybody's okay. But you know what? That's not their job. It's not the adult's job to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing anyway. So if it makes it difficult for them and the adults are complaining because they're running from place to place, then that's good. And when they get there, you're probably doing what you're supposed to be doing anyway because you're relying on each other. So.
On campouts, and you're talking about patrol area, the boys, the very first campout that we went on with the tents and everything, so where should we set up our tents? Wherever your little heart desires. That's what I told them. So after they got done setting their tents up on top of gravel, I did walk over and I said, how uncomfortable do you think that's going to be? Oh, I don't think it'll be too bad. Okay, we'll talk to you in the morning. Where are you sleeping? Oh, my tent's way over there. Why are you way over there? Don't worry about where I set my tent. We'll talk to you in the morning. So the next day, their tents moved over by mine, and then my tent moved, and they said, where are you going? And I said, don't worry about what I'm doing. You stay where you are. The next camp out that we went on, I put the boys, I said, here's a good area, and we thought it was a nice area. It was a nice big circle with a fire pit right in the middle.
Right.
Nice spread out, and I said, here you guys go if you want to have this area. Mr. Boncher said you guys can camp here, you can camp there, you can camp there. And they all looked at me and said, where are you going? I said, don't worry where I'm going. I'm going way over there so I don't hear any of you guys. And they just looked at me like I was just the meanest guy. But then they understood. I'm going over there because I don't want to have to listen to you. You guys are going to have to figure some things out on your own, and you're doing a great job of it. So they get it. They do get it, and it's not being mean. You're letting them do what they want to do. They find out so many more things by talking with people their own age, and you can tell them till you're blue in the face I'm your Scoutmaster. I'm not like your teacher. I'm not like your dad. I'm not like your grandpa.
Right.
They don't understand. You're still an adult. They don't talk to you like, oh, hey, you want to go hang out and have some burgers? They don't comprehend that. So, guided discovery.
So you brought up an excellent publication earlier, the Scoutmaster's Handbook. If you're a scouter and you are working with scouts, it's a definite must read. There's a lot of literature out there, and we just want to welcome one of our new sponsors.
Well, actually, I don't want to step on your toes here. We already have a Scoutmaster's Handbook. This is another handbook out there.
Right.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got lost there.
No,
what happened?
There's the Scoutmaster. The Scoutmaster's Handbook is a publication by BSA National that everybody should read. But today we're welcoming a new sponsor to the show, and that's the Scoutmaster's Other Handbook, and that's by Mark Ray. Quick funny story.
The Mark Ray.
The Mark Ray. Quick story was I was posting on a forum once, and a scouter was uncourteous, and I left a little message on the board that I was a little upset that I was responded to that way, and I didn't think that was right. That everybody's to their opinions, and that we should be talking civilly to each other. And about a day or so after the post, I get a couple of emails from this guy, Mark, and we start exchanging emails and talking about, he's like, oh, I appreciated your post. I feel the same way. How's this? How's that? How do you do this? How do you do this? I saw your website. And then I finally looked at his signature, and I said, oh, my goodness. I said, you're Mark Ray. You wrote the Scoutmaster's Other Handbook. And he goes, yep. And I said, I'll tell you what. I go, thank you, because when I was thinking of becoming Scoutmaster, I had read all the other stuff, and I saw your book at the Scout Shop, and I picked it up, and I read it cover to cover, and it really gave me a lot of good ideas. So, if you would please pick up a copy of the Scoutmaster's Other Handbook. You could find it at eaglebook.com. He's got a couple other books over there. He's got a good email that goes out every once in a while. And if you're on a couple of different forums, you might see him. He's always hanging out there. So that's Mark Ray's
He does have a Facebook
Other
page,
Handbook. And he has a Facebook page. So check him out. He's a new sponsor of Scout Nation, and we'd like to thank him and welcome him. So,
and I know that you were saying that you picked up the book when I decided to start the troop and I got the green light and everything started going. I actually bought my Scoutmaster's Handbook that day and the Scoutmaster's Other Handbook on the same day.
Excellent.
And so it's in the Scout shops too, folks. If you don't, support your local scouting and support your income tax and like that. But, it's just a really good read. I actually bought another copy, and I gave it to, I threw it in the troop library for any of the adult leaders to read. And it's such a good read from cover to cover, and it has such a common sense approach on running things. So, Mr. Ray, if I can call you Mark, I really appreciate you coming on board and with PTC. So I'm glad to have him as a sponsor for Scout Nation.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. So now we've got our question that launched this whole episode, and that was by Ken Morgan. And he posted on the PTC forums on one of our earlier episodes. And he was talking about the PLC, and you can't talk about the PLC without talking about the patrol method, which is what we did. But Ken's question was twofold to us big and small troop guys. Do you need a patrol leaders council when you only have 8 members in a troop? And conversely, can a 20-man patrol leader council be very effective? So, Sean, you're the guy at the time who had only 8 members, but you're up to double digits now. So why don't you answer that first part there? So do you need a PLC with only 8 to 12 members in a troop now?
Yes, I firmly believe it, because in a troop with 8 to 12 members, you're going to have an SPL, and you're more than likely, in my case, I have 2 patrols using the guidelines from from Mark Ray's book, I have smaller patrols, but I still have 2 patrols, so that means I have 2 patrol leaders. There's a troop guide and a scribe also in the troop, and yeah, you need one. Number one, it helps so that when decisions get made, parents and new scouts can say, why are we doing this? And I can turn to them and say, because the youth leadership picked this to do. These are the rules picked by the boys. Number one. So it kind of, you can't see what I'm doing, but it's the washing of my hands of the major. Why do the boys need a neckerchief? Because the PLC said so. Why do we have to wear the uniform shirts to everything? Because the PLC said so.
Yep.
It's also laying the groundwork for when my troop is 50 kids. Okay, right now we've got, a 4-guy PLC. Well, when we're at 50, I'm probably going to have a 10 or a 12-guy PLC. Also, I look at it as maybe motivating these scouts that are, man, I hate using the term, lazy. Get them motivated. I don't like this. I don't like this. Well, here's the deal. If you don't like this, run for patrol leader, run for SPL, and get on the PLC and make the changes that you want. And then maybe if you have to give them a little history lesson with government, here you go. Get involved. You have a say. You have a voice. Yes, you're 12. You have a voice in how this troop is run. You want to wear T-shirts from Memorial Day to Labor Day? Great. Make it so. Have a PLC. Say, this is what we're going to do. Why? There's your answer. And hopefully, and I know that it's going to, because I can see it. I can see it in the workings already that it is going to. It's going to work. So starting with this, start small. Lay your groundwork now. It's so much easier if you have the foundation laid to build the house. My foundation is laid for my troop, and it's squared. So the framing is going to go good, and then pretty soon all the detail work is going to fall right into place because everything's squared. So conversely, how effective can that 20-man PLC be, Brian? I mean, 20-man?
It is a lot, but and here's your title. Size doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because a troop, a PLC doesn't run the troop per se. The PLC is the senior patrol. That's the way I see it. I've got 12 patrols in my troop now. 12 patrols. And the senior patrol leader is in charge of all the patrol leaders. With an effective senior patrol leader, you can demonstrate the patrol method. Because the SPL has ASPLs who's his assistant. The patrol leader has an assistant patrol leader, right? The patrol leaders in the PLC become the patrol members. And a PLC has a scribe. A patrol should have a scribe. The PLC has a chaplain's aide. The patrol should have a chaplain's aide, someone who says grace at meals, or who does an impromptu scout zone. If you guys are on a patrol outing and want to do that, the PLC has troop guides. A patrol should have not so much troop guides, but remember when we were talking about everyone has a strength and a weakness, and everyone can find a place? Well, if you have that guy that is the knot master in your patrol, then use him to guide the rest of the patrol members into learning knots. When you have a knot relay coming up, that's his time to shine. He has the skills to teach the other scouts in his patrol, just like the troop guide has the skills to teach the younger scouts and get them to first class. Because the PLC, whether it's 8 people or 3 people or 30 people, they're setting the example. They're showing the patrol, they're showing the troops how it's done, and they're showing the patrol leaders how to do it. And the older PLC members, even even more set the example because they've been there before, right? They've sat in the seat down where the patrol leader is, and now they're an assistant senior patrol leader. So they can use their influence, they can use their skills, and they can give back. The best thing about a PLC of 20, or that includes everybody, is that every scout feels that they have a say in the troop. And I think that's very important. Our first-year scouts come to our PLC meetings on a rotating basis. So for the next couple of months, 2 or 3 first-year scouts will come to a PLC meeting and just sit down and observe, right? And see what this mysterious PLC meeting that they talk about that only a handful of people go to, that what happens behind those doors. And they came, and they came at the last PLC meeting. That was their first time there. And here's the senior patrol leader, right, who's 17, looks at this kid, I'll call him a kid, who just crossed over, who's 11, and says, "What do you think?" A few simple words, and I watched that kid just beam.
That's huge.
It is huge. It was absolutely fantastic, and we did a little brainstorming, and there was 3 of them this time. There was 3 of them. I forgot one showed up late. And they saw everybody starting to throw out ideas, and because the senior patrol leader broke that ice early, they felt that they can join in. So when we were talking about, do we want to have a contest? What's the theme for the campfire? What's our cooking contest this month? Boom, they were throwing out ideas. And at the end of the meeting, when the meeting was done and everybody was leaving, I pulled them aside and I asked them what they thought. And they all thought it was pretty cool. And I put words in their mouths that they were saying. They were saying what they were thinking, and I'm like, does that mean, are you saying that you feel that you contributed, that you have a voice in this troop? And they're like, yeah, Mr. Spellman, yeah. Like, yeah, they actually, I got the second highest votes for the top chef this month. And
Nice.
and the scout was proud about that. And I said, well, you know what you need to do? You need to go back and tell your guys. Tell your fellow patrolmates. Because they need to hear that. And then encourage them when it's their turn to come, to actually come and not blow off this meeting because it's not a required meeting. And then that 20-man PLC, I think it's best effective, if that's proper grammar. I'm sure people will fix me on that one. You get incredible ideas from all ages. And that just builds on the everyone feels they have a voice. Because if you limit that PLC to just your senior staff, right, they've seen it all, they've done it all, and they've been there for a while. So they might be a little jaded. Didn't we just go canoeing like a year and a half ago? I've been canoeing like 3 times with this troop. I've been in this troop 5 years, and I don't like canoeing. Or we're always doing the knot relay, or we're always doing the how to pack demonstration. Do we really need to do that? Oh no, we just did it. We just did it 8 months ago. Why do we need to do it again? Right? But when you have that 20-man PLC with every age group and every patrol represented, you get a wide variety of ideas, and they're not so old. And that when you have a second year or a third year say, hey, let's teach everybody how to build a backpack. Those 4th, 5th, and 6th year scouts are groaning because they've done it 100 times. But those younger guys don't know how to do it. And they're showing enthusiasm. So if the senior patrol leader is an effective senior patrol leader, he can assign an ASPL to that patrol and say, hey, if you really want to do it, go ahead and do it. And then Adam over here, you've been to Philmont twice. why don't you work with them and help them make sure they get the right facts and they get the skills demo, get the right information out there, but they might approach it with a different enthusiasm to make it enjoyable for everybody. So definitely a 20-man PLC can be effective. And I'll end it with this. We talked about troop limits.
Yep.
At a past troop committee, you know, when is too big? And one of my assistant scoutmasters said, you know, I'll vote for a limit if you make the limit 500. And I thought about that for a second. I said, man, that's going to be a lot of joining conferences for me. But then I thought about it, and I said, well, you know what I tell everybody when they say, holy cow, there's tons of scouts. How do you manage all those scouts? I don't. You know what I do? I train and I mentor a 20-man PLC. That's what I do. I train those scouts to lead, and then I'm there to help them in whatever they need help in, and then they run their patrols. And it's as simple as that. And if you have a strong PLC and everybody's working the patrol method, you are going to have an incredible, incredible troop.
And all right, sorry about that. My microphone was muted for a second there. I had a little bit of a cough, and I forgot to unmute it.
Nope.
So, Ken also asked another question, too, about leader involvement, big versus small. Wanted to know, are adults needed at both levels? What's their role? I'm thinking needed for both levels, big versus small. What's their role? For me, I guess I would say, I'll read the whole question. Sorry about that. Just, too many or too little? Is there a minimum or a maximum? Possibility of sectioning adult leadership into big troops, forming smaller troops within one troop. I got a little bit here that I'll kind of weigh in on, because I think we talked about this in a previous show already. It just seems familiar material, but regardless, you need adults at both levels. I'm a Scoutmaster. I have 2 assistant Scoutmasters. My troop committee is 5 people, and that's for 11 Scouts. So we have 8 adults for 11 Scouts, but once again, the foundation and the infrastructure is there. We're building the foundation. There's 8 of us now, but next year when there's 20 Scouts, there's still going to be 8 of us, because I don't see any of those parents that are currently in Cub Scouts crossing over and wanting to take on a job in the immediate future. They may take on a smaller role, and that's where some of those roles come in. Too many or too little. You can never have too many, because there's always a position for them. It can be something as simple as a seatbelt. You're a seatbelt caller.
Yep.
You're a merit badge counselor. The 3 citizenship merit badges are huge. They're all required. So if one parent steps forward to say, I'll be the merit badge counselor for those 3 citizenship merit badges, in your troop alone, you're going to have 35 kids within the next year and a half or so start asking about that. So I don't think there's too many or too little. It's just how many the parents want to, your troop wants to pay for. Yeah, we're not going to have 20 registered adults and 11 kids. That doesn't make sense. But in a common sense point of view, we've built the infrastructure. So, that's where I would throw in it's like 18 cents with inflation now on adult leader involvement. I don't know. Do you have something, Brian?
No, I agree 100% with you. My troop committee chair has a saying that most organizations are run 80-20, 80% of the work done by 20% of the people, of the members. So I don't think there shouldn't be a minimum or a maximum. My only caveat is that we're like-minded. You understand the program that I'm teaching the PLC to present. And if you're on board with that, I can have every mother, father, stepmom, stepdad, and grandma, grandpa involved. The more the merrier, really. I have a possible almost 300 adults. You know, with all the mixed families that we have, I got 140, so that's, you know, that's 280 traditional parents, and then you add in all some separations and divorces and stuff, so you're almost at 300 potential people that are involved in my troop. And I wish each and every one of them would get involved in some way, because it turns that 80-20, and it flips it, and then you prevent burnout. You don't have 20% of the people doing 80% of the work. You have 80% of the people only responsible for 20%, or I don't know, the math adds up, but you get what I'm saying there. My metaphor might be mixed, but it stands true. You rely on one or two people too much, and that person's going to break. And as for sectioning of adult leadership in big troops, that is a possibility. That can happen, and I think that's detrimental to the troop in itself, because you start to form mini troops, and that's there shouldn't be mini troops within the troop. The mini troop is one thing and one thing only, and that's a patrol. And then if you have some unlike-minded scouters doing their own thing down the hall with 3 or 4 patrols that they like, or their sons are in or whatever, and then you got the other patrols on the other end of the building following a different quote-unquote Scoutmaster, that could cause some trouble. So you really gotta watch out for that, and that's why my caveat is there. There's no minimum, there's no maximum, but we got to make sure everybody's on the same page for the benefit of the boys, because that's the reason we're there.
I agree. I completely agree. Well, you know what? We've kind of gone, I don't want to say long. We've had a really great discussion tonight on a lot of these things, and my wife right now is texting me saying that I owe her some ice cream.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so it's that time of the night where to say adios. Folks, you know where to find me on Twitter. Scoutmaster Sean, SM_Sean on Twitter, or Skype, Sean.Cleary. You can find me pretty much all over the internet. Do a Google search. You're going to find me wherever you want.
And you can find me on Twitter at Brian Spellman, BryanSpellman, or you can drop me a line at Scoutmaster@troop199.org. And you could also come on to the PTC Media forums, where you'll notice that I changed my signature. I'm a little biased tonight because I saved this last bit of troop news for the end, because it's more of a personal, it's for the troop, but it's also personal. Last Thursday, my son, Nate, became our troop's 85th Eagle Scout, and a second-generation Eagle now.
Congratulations, young Mr. Spellman. He is. I've called you and texted you and said congratulations once again. It's a big achievement. It's that big smile, and I have no problems with you saying those things on the show, because I'm very proud to be affiliated with a great Scoutmaster like yourself. And obviously, I'm not trying to take away your thunder, but I'm immensely proud of you guys. So,
well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I got a lot of really nice comments from a lot of Scout Nation. Emailed me, sent me a tweet, or commented on Facebook, and I really appreciate it. And I passed it all along, because everybody was well, not everybody, but a lot of people were congratulating me, and it all lies on him. I helped, but he did the work, and he had to walk into that board as an Eagle Scout, and he walked out as an Eagle Scout, and Mom and Dad cannot be prouder. So that's all I got for this month. This episode of Scout Nation. We've got our Twitter feed, so make sure you guys get on there.
Make sure you guys are throwing your hashtags on there too.
Yeah, hashtag Scout Nation, man. Let's blow it up, and let's find each other. Let's find each other, and then I think on May 6th of this year. So May 6th will be our next Scout Nation chat. Again, we'll be on there around 9:30 Eastern Standard, 8:30 Central, and watch Sean and I's Twitter feed for announcements of that. We'll put the link on there that night, and we'll chat her up, and we'll see what gets going. Our April chat was cool.
It was.
Was it April or yeah? It was our April chat, and it was a good time. I had a really good time there.
Yeah, that was our chat from 3 weeks ago because it worked out, and we've been finding a lot of followers on Twitter too. That like I said, keep throwing a hashtag on there because it's working.
It is. I'm finding a lot of people, and last but not least, 100 Days of Scouting. There's 30 or 40 of us at this point.
Huge.
And we're all using the 100 Days of Scouting hashtag as well. I found a whole bunch of scouts and scouters that I didn't know existed out there, and I'm already exchanging information and learning from them. So, Sean, as always, a pleasure this month. Thank you very much. I hope you had a good time because I know I did.
I did too. All right. Well, thanks for listening to Scout Nation, and we will talk to you soon.